Hello all. Thank you very much for making it after lunch. And we really appreciate your attendance, and we'd like to thank all the panelists as well for joining us today. My name is Adel Hameed, and I'm the founder of Innovade Design. It's an innovation consultancy company. We've got Mr. Sahba St. Clair. He's the founder of a company called Touché, and he will take you through his startup and the challenges that they went through and they had to overcome. We've got Mr. Ahmed AlDarwish. He's the founder of Falcon Robotics. Their company as well, they're as exciting as Mr. St. Clair's as well. And we've got from the support entities, we've got from Bahrain Export, Ms. Aida AlMudaifa, and Mr. Saleh Abbas as well from Flat 6 Labs, and they will share their stories of how they support startups through the seed stage and up to reaching an SME and growing and scaling up. So yeah, I'd like to give you an overview. I mean, from your side, just please give an introduction about your product and what you do. And then I'll ask you some other questions as well.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. We started this company in 2014. I actually worked in banks for 27 years. I'm a lot older than the rest of the panelists, as you can tell. I ran technology and operations globally. I was CEO of global businesses, but banking world became very boring, right? So in 2014, we set up this company. And the idea was we were focusing, we had three key design principles. One was we were focusing on physical merchants. The whole thing originated, the idea originated from an experience where we couldn't pay for a bill because we didn't have credit cards with us. So the idea of biometrics was at the core of what we did. The second thing was we had to give operational efficiency. We had no desire to give the merchant yet another device, tablet, or gadget. And the third thing was we had to do a lot more than payments, because payments is a very crowded, boring space, to be quite honest. And it's not a differentiator, right? I mean, I personally don't get up in the morning and think, oh, I'm going to go to this place to pay, right? You go and buy something, you have a service, and as a result of that, you pay. So it took us about 3.5 years to deliver the solution. We have a hardware as well as a software component to the Touché solution. And we do the following things for the merchant. We future-proof their payments so they can actually take any kind of payment at all. We give them operational efficiency, remove paper, and improve the turnaround times. We bring the loyalty system to life, and therefore their customers get their entitlements automatically without another friction or another process. Then we do analytics on the buying behavior of their customers, both historic as well as predictive. And we culminate all of that in allowing the merchant and giving them the tools necessary to create very targeted and personalized marketing experience. To marketing campaigns for their customers. As you know, generic marketing campaigns don't hardly ever work. You've got to be a lot more specific based on the needs of your customers. So basically, in essence, we bring what the online world have had forever to the physical merchants, and we try and actually give them the tools necessary to compete.
And you've got a sample as well of the product.
I do. I've got a device here, it says Touché very nicely at the back. It's got this biometric sensor, which is technology we import from the US, and it manages the entire experience. This actually replaces the traditional credit card machines that you see in all the stores. I think it's a lot prettier, and it has a lot more functionality.
So, and I think your website as well is called gotouche.com.
That's right.
So you can check it out, and you can see the video over there. And as you started this company, I think you started in 2014.
That's right.
What are the challenges that you went through and the lessons learned scaling up your business?
I think there are many lessons, and I think there's some generic ones we can talk about, and there's some very specific ones, right? So, first of all, don't try and boil the ocean, right? You can't do everything for everybody, right? We're all, entrepreneurs. You have a great idea and you think you're going to conquer the world. You might eventually, but you have to start somewhere. Quite specific. So focus was, I think, quite key. I think the other thing was, which I had learned through my banking career and working life, was don't try and scale too fast because you will fail, right? You need to have the infrastructure, you need to have the management structure, the processes in order to actually be able to scale in a controllable, successful way. So Remain focused. Although you might think your solution works for everyone, focus on a particular segment. And don't try and actually grow too quickly. Think about your funding. We were lucky enough that we could bootstrap the company ourselves, me and my partner. We did that for a few years. And we had some well-to-do friends and family that actually helped us along. So we didn't have the need for seed funding or VCs up to now. So those are some of the key things.
And then you started aiming at getting a strategic partner as well to help
Correct.
you out.
So the whole thing is, know what you're good at, what you want to do, and don't do things that you're not good at, right? I know we're an innovation technology company. I have no desire to have a humongous team with loads of salespeople. So what we do, we actually work through alternative sales channels. And we revenue share. We're not greedy, right? So revenue we make, if they help us actually sell the solution, we share that revenue. And also, be very specific about the markets you want to enter, right? So our solution is not for villages in Indonesia, right? We are a solution for the affluent, people that have multiple credit cards, loyalty cards, etc., right? So we specifically picked markets that had the right attributes for us to actually enter. And, again, coming into the Middle East, we don't really know much about the Middle East. So we focus on one particular market, which is the UAE. Our local sponsor is a company by Sheikh Saeed bin Ahmad Al Maktoum. So we have the right partner, the right sponsor, I think, in that market to make an impact.
Excellent, excellent. And can you share a bit more on why you started in Singapore and why are you coming to the Middle East?
Of course. I moved to Singapore in '91 with my banking career. I met a very lovely local lady and I married her. So it became home. So I've been in Singapore on and off since '91. And for me, it was the most obvious place to start. The government does help for startups and new ideas. So that was, again, another good plus for us. But when we built the solution, the idea was, look, we have to be able to scale this business beyond the shores of Singapore because it's a very relatively small market. So we built this solution to scale vertically and horizontally. And therefore, since the word go, we were building this to be quite big. And we started in Singapore because we knew people, right? Again, having been there for so long in the banking world, we could get to the banks. And then we started focusing on the Japanese market, the Australian market, and the UAE market as our next markets. And hopefully, before the end of the second quarter, we'll have some pilots in all of those three markets.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ahmed, from your side, please give us an introduction about your background and why you started Falcon.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmeds Background. I'm from Dubai. I studied aerospace engineering. My first job was an aircraft broker. That's the business side. Then I moved to Emirates as a flight ops engineer. Why I started Falcon Robotics is because I actually wanted to compete with Amazon. They're starting their autonomous drone delivery systems. I was like, okay, I can beat them. That's when I started scaling up all the way. And so I started going to all those conferences for drones, events, trying to find the perfect drone, the perfect delivery drone. There's nothing out there yet. So while walking there, I was like, wait a second. There's something missing. There's something missing that I am experienced with, which is flight operations. Why don't we use drones in the flight operations sector? So I got this idea I started working on a patent, a couple of patents actually, there are like 3 patents I'm working on, and started using artificial intelligence. That's where drones, and once you add artificial intelligence to it, that's where robotics combines. And that's where I got the idea. So I shifted away from competing with Amazon. I think they're here. Sorry. And started working on my own thing. I didn't have the funding in the beginning, so I was looking for ways to start funding myself. How do I do that? So I used the background in my aircraft broker. It's just to become a middleman, find demand, find the suppliers. You don't need to own anything. You don't need to buy anything. You just need the proper charisma. You need the proper contacts, and then you'll have the customers, and you just make them work together. So my company is actually just one-person company, and it's doing good. It's doing good for a startup. I started first, I took a big loan thinking I will conquer the world and everything. I'd made a big mistake. So right now I'm paying up my loan through this company. Once I get my patents done, I will hopefully open up my own manufacturing firm and have my vision be there happening.
And what's the plan to scale up? I mean, you started with the first client, and then is the product yours, or?
I honestly don't have any product.
Okay.
I don't even need an office. All I needed was a phone, computer, and contacts.
And that comes from your brokerage experience.
That came from my experience. Just keep on calling, find who needs where's the supply, where's the demand is. And from those conferences that I went to, I found the suppliers. They're from Europe, there are suppliers locally. Right now I only deal with local suppliers for bigger projects, which regulations don't allow them yet in the region. I will probably be going to suppliers from outside.
And how were you able to convince the clients, to actually follow that model? Because you basically, it's a one-man show, like you
I didn't
said.
have to tell them that.
Okay.
No, you don't have to tell them that. You just tell them, this is the services that I provide, and we have all those experiences. My background is this and that, and it worked out. And plus, I used some support from the government entities where we have support for small and medium enterprises, and they actually give me some contacts. They help me. They push to support local talent, local businesses, and that's where I got the support as well.
If you summarize the challenges that you faced, or the lessons learned throughout this whole process, what would be the top 3 points, 2 or 3 points?
The top 3 points. First one is state of mind. If you go there thinking your product is the best thing, it will be the best thing. But study it, obviously. Don't make silly mistakes like me. Like, don't go taking the loan and thinking that's it. You're going to find people buying it straight away. Do a good study. The other thing would be find a way to clear your head every morning. Every morning, there's things going on. We pray. That's one way for us to clear our minds. There's also meditation. I tried it recently. Once I started doing that, things just started happening. One very important piece of advice I would give to any startup, inner peace. That's a quote I heard. Inner peace is the new success. Once you realize, once you love yourself, once you find that inner peace, things are just going to come to you. I attracted investors. I didn't even have to go to them. They started calling me. I was like, okay, that's good. So, I mean, I'm still a beginner in this, but it's working. I'm working my way to get more experience in that. So, state of mind is very, very important, and I think that's the best advice I could give to anyone from my very small experiences.
And and of course, your lifestyle got impacted. You studied in the US, engineering. You came back. You worked as a broker, and then you decided to start your own business.
Right.
And as you're going through that as well, you transitioned. You had 2 jobs, basically a full-time job and starting your business.
I still have my day job, which is at Emirates. That's one way to pay for my mistake, to pay for the big loan that I did, and. I found time just after work, during work sometimes for like an hour, or during lunch breaks, I would make some contacts, I would call people.
Okay.
So it's all about time management. Time management is also a very important thing in your lifestyle. Try to work out your skills. Don't kill yourself, but try to manage your time, try to manage your life, do some sports, read a book. Reading a book just clears your mind as well, that's part of it. So again, it's just going back to the same point I started with.
Where do you see yourself in 2 to 3 years? I mean, what's the plan?
2 to 3 years, I'll see myself as research and development, just in the beginning phase of building the drones, the aerial robotics, that's why I call them robotics. And I'll have to be challenging the regulations with drones, and it's still early. It's an early stage technology. So that's a good thing. I still have time to work on my products while regulations are changing. And then once I show people that my products can actually help you, regulations might actually, I might get some support to go against the regulations, not just by myself.
Yeah, this is excellent. I mean, the vision that you've got to manufacture your own drones and stuff like that, that's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed.
Thank you.
We go to Aida now from Bahrain Export. So, of course, Bahrain Export is a recent entity that was set up in Bahrain to support the startup ecosystem and SMEs ecosystem to export their services. So I'd leave it to you. Please give an introduction about yourself and what you do.
Thank you so much, firstly, and it's really great to be here. Export Bahrain has been launched in November 2018, so it's just a few months old. It's the first dedicated platform in the Kingdom of Bahrain that supports Bahraini SMEs exports to be able to access global markets. So we are a facilitator to that to the global market, and we do support SMEs to be able to achieve that. So Export Bahrain has been developed under the purview of the SME Development Board, which is chaired by His Excellency Mr. Zayed Zayani, Minister of Industry and Commerce and Tourism, and in collaboration with Temkeen. The main objective of Export Bahrain is to diversify export potentials for SMEs, is to improve as well the exporting landscape and allowing SMEs to think global and to be able to think that they have the whole kind of world at their grabs. Also, we are aiming to boost competitiveness amongst SMEs in terms of internationalization. So far, Export Bahrain has 4 main solutions, given the time frame that we had. So 4 main solutions that we're currently offering. This includes export financing, export credit insurance, as well as trainings and workshops.
And export financing, what does it do? I mean, how can a startup benefit out of that?
Yes. Export financing is a short-term financing solution that we have collaborated with partner banks. For now, we have Bahrain Islamic Bank and Bahrain Development Bank with us on board to support SMEs based on their export transactions. So we, as Export Bahrain, support 70% of the profit rate associated with that deal, as well as 50% of the admin fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And since you're managing the planning department and intelligence department, there is usually, as startups, we find it difficult to find export data, import data, market data that we could use within our feasibility study and stuff like that. How can you help us out?
Right. Actually, with this regard, we're heavily looking into it and studying it. So far, we're working with the International Trade Center that's based in Geneva to develop 2 main platforms to be embedded within Export Bahrain's website. One looking into the trade maps and the other looking into the opportunities per country for SMEs to look at. And that is because when we've studied the landscape and we've studied the challenges that SMEs are facing with regards to exporting, information is the key challenge that's being faced by SMEs. Understanding which markets should they target, where would my product work best. So with these 2 platforms that will be launched hopefully by mid-year, we are kind of prioritizing this solution given the need. We'll be able to kind of bridge that gap for SMEs. Yeah.
And you said that you've got an announcement that you didn't share with me earlier.
Yes,
Would you like to
actually
announce
this
that?
is exclusive.
Yeah.
It's going to be officially announced next week, but I just thought to take this platform to announce for it. Given, of course, we have 4 main solutions that we're currently offering. A new service that Export Bahrain will be starting to offer, starting from next week, is an export readiness self-assessment indicator test. This will be up as well on our website. It's an online platform to which Bahraini SMEs or actually any business at that matter could access this indicator, understand where they fit within their readiness to export. So we've studied the main aspects to which it's important for SMEs to target, which includes their finance capability and how advanced they are in that, how advanced and knowledgeable they are about the product and service, as well as the export knowledge, and as well as the company commitment to exporting. So given these three main aspects to which SMEs could assess themselves, you would be able to understand if you're ready to export or not. I think some SMEs would be in a rush to actually, let me go expand and I think I'm ready, but in reality you're not.
So you're assessing the readiness before they actually go
Yes, which is kind of am I ready to scale up yet?
Okay.
So this could be a start for to kind of filter the SMEs who are ready, and it's an indicator as well for us to be able to understand how to best support our SMEs.
Are there fees for startups? Let's say if Touché, for example, wants to start selling out of Bahrain. What would be the process? They would go online, they would apply, go through the assessment, and then from your side there will be a key account manager or something like that?
Yes. So far, there's two main streams to which customers could apply. It could go online, or you could actually come and visit us. We're based in Beit Tijar. We're on the 15th floor. You could come and visit us and speak to one of our customer service agents, or you can apply online. We're kind of trying to streamline the process to make it easier for our customers, but there's no fee as of yet associated with kind of benefiting from these solutions, but there's an application form that's ready for you on the website. You could simply submit your application and deal directly with a customer relationship manager from Export Bahrain.
Thank you very much, Aida. Thank you. So we go to Saleh now from Flat 6 Labs. You've got your business development experience. You worked on launching and being the business development arm of Dragon City in Bahrain. And you've been helping out Flat 6 Labs, or leading on the initiative of sourcing startups, sourcing investor deals and stuff like that. So I'll leave it to you. Okay. Please give us an introduction on what you do.
So Flat 6 Labs were the biggest MENA investors in early stage startups. We started off in Cairo in 2011, and now we've expanded on into 6 locations. Bahrain's the most recent one. It's actually today is our 1-year anniversary since we initially launched, and we've completed 2 cycles and invested in 16 startups so far. The way we work is that we have each cycle is about 6 months long. And during that cycle, we filter down applicants. So usually we have a big outreach program, and it goes local and international. So our ratio, usually we have like a 60-40 ratio between Bahraini startups and international startups. And the way we scout them is, one is through, we have a gigantic natural organic network that we've built over the 7 years of experience that we've had in all the different locations throughout the region. And the other way is that we are constantly attending all the largest startup events across the globe. And we feel that it helps to bring in some international startups as well, because they're coming from a very competitive ecosystem, and they have a lot to contribute when they come here, and a lot of knowledge to share with other local founders as well. So other than that, I also deal with strategic partnerships and consolidating our VC network, which is quite crucial for us, because we're getting at a stage where we invest at a very early stage. So this is usually pre-MVP, before people are like generating any kind of revenue or anything like that. And once they hit that stage, that's when they need to start thinking about scaling. And that's when you require the bigger VCs to come on board and give them larger funds, and for them to go on and raise their pre-series and their Series A. And so we always try to make sure that, over the years we work very hard on our filtration process, and we try to be the first guys that give a validation to entrepreneurs that are trying to get off their feet, and make them viable for the bigger VCs to have a closer look at and to consider raising larger funding.
And as part of the group, I think you've got Sawari VC as well. So you've got that access to that expertise and resources that you can.
Yes. So the interesting part behind it is that actually we originally started as Sawari Ventures under Ahmed Al-Alfi, and so then it continued on to where they felt they had a major gap, and they wanted to invest in well-structured later stage startups, but the problem was that there was hardly any around to invest in. And they found that there's a lot of talent out there, but there's 3 major barriers to get anybody into launching their own startup, which is, one is access to capital, the other one was mentorship, and the third was having a business development network. So they created Flat 6 Labs as a sort of an experiment back in 2011, and they bankrolled it themselves for the first 40 companies or so to figure out whether, you know, does this model work, and will it produce a lot of companies that then could go on into later stage development and be viable for VCs and create a pipeline to the VCs. And so they had great success in their first 4 cycles, and it ended up becoming a model that countries like Lebanon, UAE, Saudi, and Tunisia were all very happy to, you know, invite us in there and even help support us. And in most locations, most government entities are direct partners with us. So it's turned out to be a very fruitful model, and we've hit now over 200 companies in our portfolio.
Excellent. So let's say if I'm a startup, I come and apply on your website within your cohort, and I get accepted.
Yep.
So you'll help me out in building the pitch, pitching to investors, building the prototype. When it reaches the scale-up stage, how do you help me out? Does the relationship continue, or?
Yeah. So we're the same as any other VC. The only difference is the first 4 or 5 months were very intense with our program, where we do a lot of direct development on the founder and on the business model. Because usually you'll find there's a lot of tweaks that need to be made to the business model, and also founders, you usually either get them they're business orientated or they're technical orientated. So you kind of need to find that gap, and whether it's either educating them and giving them the right access to mentorship to fill those gaps, or whether it means, you know, trying to find the right co-founder to help complement them in their business. That's kind of how we go about it. But when it comes to them scaling up, we're still like any other VC, which is we usually look at a full exit would be 7 to 10 years. So even with our first company, which has now got a valuation of over $15 million, we've never fully exited. We probably will dilute our shares a little bit so that we give room for other investors to come in when they're raising further funding, and so that the actual founder doesn't feel like they're losing too much of their own equity and still feel like they have the main ownership to their company. But other than that, we would still be meeting with them on a monthly basis, and we still maintain a seat on the board. And we make sure that we use our ties through our entire VC network across the region so that they get the first foot through the door of all these VCs, and they get at least given a chance to be seen and to have an opportunity to raise further funding.
And you help them, you mentioned earlier that you help some of these startups get access to strategic partners that could open doors to them.
Yeah.
And this is one of the services that you provide. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have around 2 minutes for Q&A, so if you have any questions, please raise your hand and تفضل. عليكم السلام.
My question for maybe Mr. Saleh, working with startups. Startups are managed mostly by first-time managers. And the manager for the
Good idea.
founders, most of them are first-time managers. And when the company starts to grow, they have to be more expertise in those startups. How do you manage this risk?
Yeah, so this is where it's always important to have a strategic partner as an investor on board, where you don't want someone that to just give you the cash. You need someone that can actually help you through mentorship. So it's a big part of our program is not just understanding how to scale financially, it's also how to scale when it comes to HR perspective. So it's how are you going to set up your organizational structure, and like what's the cultural values you're going to incorporate to control. Because like when you have a team of 4 or 5 people, there's a lot of things that don't need to be implemented to control the team and to make sure that your company culture is maintained. But when you start scaling to a point where you're going 30 employees, 50 employees, 100 employees, it's very hard to maintain the same kind of quality from an employee perspective. So where things like that come in is we have specific mentors that are experts in each field who will come in and advise them based on what they expect their future expectations to be on their growth. And for example, Adel is actually a mentor that participates in our program as well. So
thank you. Someone wanted to ask a question over there as well. تفضل.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم
My name is Mohammed Abdel. I have a question for Export Bahrain. First thing, why do you only support SMEs? The second question is, I just started a cheese factory in Bahrain. So what would you offer me as a startup?
Okay. In terms of our support to SMEs, due to the landscape study or the study that we've carried out to understand the demand or the need in the market, we see that the challenges for exporting is from SMEs. Large organizations do not have the same issues, or in terms of the volume, the same issues as SMEs face for exporting. So, and looking into the current data of Bahrain, most of exports are being carried out by large organizations, and that focuses on same fields, aluminum and petroleum as the main fields for exports. But we're trying to diversify the areas, and we believe this diversification will start from our SMEs, and they do consist of a large portion of enterprises in Bahrain. So this is why we decided to direct our focus to SMEs for now, but it's worth also mentioning that some solutions as we go might also be opened for large. So we're not closing the door completely. This is a testing phase for us. We're also learning from the market, and for the time being, where we will be engaging with the community, with the business community heavily during this period to understand if our direction is also right. But based on the studies, that's why we've decided to go for SMEs. And your second question is what can we offer you?
Yes, I have a cheese factory now. I started producing in the market, the local market here. So I find it a big problem finding a reliable distributor in Saudi, in Khabar or in Riyadh. How to grant my money. Transportation issue, customs is a big pain. We face both sides, either Bahraini side or Saudi side.
Right.
So what would Export Bahrain do for us?
Right. For now, of course, these are challenges that we hear on a daily basis from our customers. So we're trying to tap into all of these matters with the workshop that we're carrying out. So we understand that there's issues with custom clearance, and I know that Saudi is the most attractive market for SMEs now due to it's large and it's close to Bahrain, but also there are matters of the clearance to Saudi. So we are trying to tap into this through our advisory and kind of the awareness tool that we've activated through the workshops. But also going forward, we are building connections or partnerships we'll start with the neighboring countries for now, building these connections to ease up this process of taking your product from Bahrain to neighboring countries for now. Neighboring countries as well as other countries that we've defined as part of the priorities. So yeah, and there are a number of solutions. Our portfolio might be small now in terms of the solutions that we're offering, but just in 2019, these solutions were more than double. We have 10 new planned solutions that we're looking into, one of which is international marketing, for example, exhibition, matching, which I think would create the best impact for you, matching you with possible importers and the partners to clear your products. The consultancy aspect, studying your markets, understanding which market would best work with you amongst many of the other solutions. So definitely we can help you now, and we can even help you with the solutions that were planned out for 2019. And we're very happy to have maybe a further discussion later. Yeah.
Thank you, Aida. Thank you. I think we're out of time. If there are no other questions, yeah, more? So we'll use it as the last question. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I have a question for Saleh. When are applications open for Flat 6 Labs Bahrain?
Yeah, so our applications are going to close on the 10th of March. That's going to be for our third cycle. We expect to start the third cycle in around June. So if there's anybody that has a startup or anyone that has any friends that are creating startups, we would encourage them to apply. They can apply going onto our website, www.flat6labsbahrain.com. And we'll review your application and get back to you in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, 10th of March, so about 3 days left for you to get your applications in.
Excellent.
Just a quick thing too. Sorry, what is your selection criteria, or what is the main things that you actually look at when considering a startup?
Okay, so we're not sector specific, we're sector agnostic, and when it comes to how we look at a startup, when you're early stage, it's very difficult because you can't really do it based on revenue, because usually you're pre-MVP and you're not generating any revenue at the time. So one is that we looked at it as an innovative solution to a problem where there's a gap in the market. The other part is the founders. So as much as you might have the right idea or a good solution, the ability of the founder to execute that and implement it and turn it into a business is the main thing that we're concerned about. And that plays a very heavy role in our selection criteria, because we usually get over 200 applicants. We narrow it down to around 50, then we do, the whole team will do a video interview with you or in person, depending if you're in Bahrain or abroad. And then we take it down to 20, where we do a 5-day boot camp. And in that boot camp, we put you through a lot of different scenarios where you get a good idea of how strategically you think and what kind of personality you have as a founder. And it gives us a better idea of, if you're the real deal when it comes to being a legit entrepreneur.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We have, time is up. So thank you all for joining us today. And would like to thank the panelists as well for giving us their time. And wish you a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.